What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? Do the Mets or Yankees need to sign Zach Gallen this offseason after another dazzling performance in New York? And answering your guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? Always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, multimedia journalist, and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. On there you can see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. If you want to see more content by me, please follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked on Diamondbacks on both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle, because we've been trying to go live on YouTube Sunday through Thursday. Can't do it after every game, but when we can, we try to go live on YouTube. So you want to follow me on social media because I tweet out before I go live. Also, hit that little bell notification so you get notified when I go live. But today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we're going to be talking about Dbacks versus Mets, how the Dbacks were able to take down one of the hottest teams in baseball. Are the Dbacks versus Phillies one of the hottest new rivalries in baseball? And then answering your guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday. But first, I want to say thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. And also, please make your second listen the Locked on MLB Game Night Show. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked on MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, now let's get into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, and let's talk about that series versus the New York Mets, because the Mets were one of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball. It felt like the D-backs were actually outplayed in this series against the Mets. But you look at the final results, and it's the D-backs taking 2 out of 3. Huge series for the rest of the season. When you talk about winning games early in the year, some people have a nonchalant attitude. I don't understand why. So many baseball fans tell me, man, you're looking at record. You care about wins and losses in April? Yes, I do, because I watched the D-backs in 2024 set themselves back the rest of the season because of early season losses in April. And so I thought this was a huge series to get revenge for what happened in 2024 for the shenanigans in the series finale, but also to set yourself up for the rest of 2025. And this ended up being the D-backs' first series win at Citi Field since 2017. Just think about how long it's been since the D-backs have played well in New York, at least well in New York against the New York Mets, because we've seen the D-backs win a series in New York already. Actually, the D-backs are a very good team in New York, taking down both the New York Yankees and the New York Mets this season. And so this was a huge series win by the D-backs, especially when you consider this was not even the best version of the D-backs, right? Like, the Mets were already one of the hottest teams in baseball, already one of the best teams in the sport at defending their home turf. And the D-backs went in there and just battled, gutsy win after gutsy win the last 2 days. A lot of resilience by this D-backs team, and that's been the philosophy and the calling card and the identity of this D-backs team in 2025. You're able to win this series without Corbin Carroll really doing anything. One hit this entire series. His first hit came in the first inning of the finale. No Ketel Marte either this series. So you have to get contributions from other people in your lineup. I thought this was a very gutty series win by the D-backs, one where I thought they got outplayed, honestly, but yet they're the ones walking away with the series win. And when you look at that series finale, I mean, one of these New York teams need to sign Zach Gallen this offseason, because that first performance, it was like 6.2 innings pitched, 13 strikeouts against the New York Yankees. Today's game, another dominant start by Gallen. 6 innings, 2 hits allowed, 8 strikeouts, 1 earned run. The biggest blemish was probably the 3 walks allowed, but the command did not look like an issue for Gallen today. Yes, he had a couple walks, but he was dotting up the strike zone. He felt like he had great command of his location today, and I thought this was probably his second best start of the season after that performance against the New York Yankees. Had a mistake pitch against Juan Soto where the pitch before it, you're like, man, that was because if you go back and look at that Juan Soto at bat, the pitch right before the home run, it's like 89 just sitting in the upper part of the strike zone. You're like, he kind of got away with that one. But if he throws that one again, it could be trouble. Like that's what I thought to myself in that moment. And then he throws the exact same pitch in the same location, and Soto just tees off on it. Probably the only mistake Zach Gallen made all day today. He did have a mistake probably earlier in the game, but Alek Thomas, two-way player, because he had that great catch in center field running toward the alley in right field. And if he's not playing today, that is probably a run scoring double off Zach Gallen. But Thomas, great defense today. Also, great offense, a two-way performance by Thomas because it was kind of fun to see him make that great defensive play. Then he follows it up by getting a hit in the next inning. I kind of feel like that's the MLB version of a fast break. Like when you see a guy get a block on defense and then he runs down and then scores the layup. That's kind of what Alek Thomas did. Big diving play in center field, and then you come up next at bat and you get a hit. I thought it was just a very fun moment in the ball game. Josh Naylor, he should have had a home run. I mean, it hit the top of the wall. It was 2 inches away from going over past it, but it's like one of those things where if it's above the line, it should be a home run, right? Like when you look at Chase Field, you have that line where anything above it's a home run. Well, this thing was above the wall, hit the top of the wall, then came back into play. I feel like that should be a home run, but I guess I'm wrong because they reviewed it. Domo looks to have his groove back after getting the go-ahead run in the game 2 against the Mets. He had a home run in today's game. Love to see that. We need Domo to get his back going because he was in a cold stretch prior to this Mets series. So good to see his offense finally coming back around. Tim Tawa needs to stay on this D-backs team. Once Ketel Marte comes back, I still want Tim Tawa on the bench because as a pinch hitter with some real power, I think Tawa deserves a spot on this D-backs team as a thumper, pinch hitting situations, potential DH. I still like Tawa. And he's still versatile defensively. Even though he hasn't been great defensively, at least he's still versatile. So I would keep him over Garrett Hampson for a infield bench option. Back-to-back nights, Ryan Thompson, critical for the D-backs. Coming out in the 7th inning, he was fantastic today. What I didn't like, though, from this game, if I have to give my critique, back-to-back nights where Kevin Ginkel comes out. Ginkel hasn't pitched all season, coming off the injured list, and this felt like another game where we were just going to leave the reliever way too long in the game. It was already risky throwing Ginkel out in back-to-back games of like high leverage situations. And listen, I'm the guy that has been begging for the Thompson, Ginkel, Shelby 7-8-9 with J Mart and Puck out. But to do it in back-to-back days when you know Ginkel is trying to work his way back into form, it just felt risky. And then you just never had anybody warming up. You never had like a contingency plan if things went sideways, because it started to go sideways for Kevin Ginkel. And that's like my biggest frustration a lot of times when it comes to this D-backs bullpen. Yeah, sometimes a guy comes out and they don't perform, but also when you clearly see your guy doesn't have it, Ginkel was struggling. He was walking guys. He was giving up hits. Why don't we pull him? Why don't we have someone else warming up just in case? I felt like in that moment, thankfully, Ginkel clutched it out, but I thought he should have been pulled. It felt like the same situation with Jalen Beeks a couple of weeks ago against the Rays. Same with Ryan Nelson recently when we tried to throw him out there in the 9th inning. Like there's just too many games where we just put these relievers out in games way too long where you're watching them unravel and we're just doing nothing about it. So we need a quicker hook when it comes to these D-backs relievers, and you can see that they're struggling. Umpire also tried to screw both teams in the 9th inning. Didn't realize it was a catcher interference against the D-backs. Phillies against the D-backs and then didn't realize that Eugenio Suarez foul tip into the glove for strike 3. So bad job by the ump. But regardless, with all that being said, great series by the D-backs, gutty series by the D-backs, resilient series by the D-backs. Felt like they were outplayed, but you look up at the end of the day, D-backs take 2 out of 3 from the Mets. They survive the series. The bullpen survives the series as well. But now we'll talk about one of the hottest new rivalries, I believe, in Major League Baseball, in the D-backs and Philadelphia Phillies in segment number 2. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. What if you could jump into your favorite Xbox titles without needing your console in every room? That's why the Fire TV Stick 4K is so amazing, because it's mobile. You could go on the go, take it with you. As long as you have your controller, you can play anywhere. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Generation. Back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, and now I want to discuss, are the D-backs and Phillies one of baseball's newest rivalries? You guys could drop down in the YouTube section if you believe this is a rivalry at all. Maybe I'm completely off base, but I feel like there's something brewing between these two teams. Again, it's definitely not on the level of Yankees, Red Sox, not on the level of some newer rivalries we've seen recently, like the Dodgers and Padres. So it doesn't have the historical value, probably doesn't have some of the more recent value as well when you've seen some of the big sparks between some of these matchups, with like the Dodgers and Padres across Major League Baseball. So I wouldn't say it's on those levels of rivalries, but I still feel like after that 2023 NLCS matchup, it had just left a taste in every fan's mouth where you're just like, there's just a little bit more anticipation now for these series. Just a little bit more drama filled when you look at D-backs versus Phillies. I just feel like there's a little bit of a little angst, a little tension now. I just feel like there's something there between the D-backs and Phillies that we really didn't see prior to 2023. And also prior to 2023, D-backs and Phillies weren't very good. D-backs weren't going to the playoffs. Phillies had that long drought of not going to the playoffs. Like, those two teams, not a lot of overlap of being competitive at the same time. But now they are. We saw them matched up in the postseason a couple years ago, and it was instantly fireworks, sparks, and I think a really intense and a really fun series. Got chippy on both sides. The Philly fans, I got to say, were fantastic. When they came down to Arizona, the bars were filled with Philly fans. I went to Four Peaks. There were a lot of Philly fans there. I went to the NLCS game where Alec Thomas had that big home run. There were still a lot of Philly fans there. Like, coming from the East Coast, they traveled well. One of the strongest fan bases in Major League Baseball. And I thought it just made the series so much more fun, because I did not think there could be another team that could really challenge like the rivalry and like the emotions I feel when we go against the Dodgers. And it's still not on that level. But for that series, I was as emotionally invested. I felt as much like hatred toward the Phillies as I've ever had against any major league team, franchise. And in that moment, I want to kill the Phillies as much as I want to kill any opponent in a playoff matchup. I want to shut down that Phillies fan base, that loud, boisterous crowd. Like, I was so happy to see what Brandon Pfaadt could do in that game 7 on the road, silencing that Phillies crowd. And so I think this has become one of the most organic rivalries in Major League Baseball that I hope can grow over time as these two teams can hopefully remain competitive. The D-backs, a young team, they've been locking up their stars, right? Carroll's not going anywhere. Fox, J-Mart. Imagine guys like Jordan Lawler, if he plays well, for a month, he's going to get a big contract. If Gabriel Moreno can ever turn it on, he's going to get extended too. Like, I expect this D-backs team core of young players to not go anywhere, and they seem to be content on spending a little money as well. So I would expect the D-backs to continue to be competitive going forward. Meanwhile, the Phillies, yes, they're a little bit older. Regression is probably going to come for them faster, but they still have their best players locked up. They're still a big market team that's not afraid to spend money. So I hope these are two teams that could stay competitive and face off again. And maybe it can happen in 2025 in the postseason. But to do that, the D-backs are going to need to continue to stack up wins. But my biggest concern for these two teams facing off in the postseason is one, I don't know if these two teams are going to win their division. The D-backs are definitely not. And if the Phillies are not going to win their division, if they lose it to the New York Mets, now we're fighting for the wild card. And we know how tight the wild card race is when you look at the Padres, the Giants, the D-backs, the Phillies, got the Braves, the Reds. Like, it's going to be a tight race. And so we might only have one of these two teams in the postseason. That's why this early season series is so important. I keep reiterating it. I keep hammering the point. You have to win these early season series, especially going against teams that are going to be fighting you for a wild card and playoff spot. And I think the D-backs do have a good chance of beating the Phillies in this series. Yes, it's going to be tough. The Phillies are a nasty team. They're a big payroll. They got an elite lineup. They have an elite rotation as well. But I really like how the first two games of the series stack up for the D-backs because you got Merrill Kelly, you got Brandon Pfaadt, both on the mound to give the D-backs a really good opportunity to start the series with 2 victories off the bat. Then you see what Erod could do in the finale. But both of those guys, Pfaadt and Kelly, coming off 6 innings pitched, 2 earned run performances. Both of them have been in their bag recently. The 2 best starters, in my opinion, for the D-backs right now. Plus, you don't have to face Zach Wheeler in this series either, who has historically shut down the D-backs. Still have to face Nola. Still have to face Jesus Luzardo. And then you do get the season debut of Ranger Suarez, it looks like, in the finale against Erod. So I think that's perfect. Just a wild card finale with Erod and Ranger Suarez on the mound. The D-backs, they could really use a huge series from Corbin Carroll because he did not do much against the Mets. He's 5 for his last 32. So we could use a big series for him because the speedster and Trey Turner for the Phillies, he's going to be the guy to watch because he's currently batting around 400 in his last 6 games. And against the D-back starters in this series, Erod, Pfaadt, and Kelly, he is 14 for 38 in his career, a 368 average against those 3 guys. And so he is the dude we need to slow down. And we know heading into this weekend series in Philadelphia, that ballpark is going to be loud. They're going to be rambunctious, but we've seen the D-backs handle that atmosphere before, and let's hope they could do it again this weekend. Now let's talk about your questions and answer them on this Mailbag Friday in segment number 3. But hey, first, a quick word from our messenger.
And also, I want to talk to you guys about Just Ingredients because when it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Just visit justingredients.us/Bryce Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your first order. And for more wellness tips, follow @just.ingredients on Instagram.
Welcome back here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Now let's answer your guys' questions on today's Mailbag Friday. Again, remember to send in your questions all week long as we answer them every Friday here on the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. First question is from Dbacks993. He said, do you believe, or she said, again, let me not assume, do you believe the D-backs bullpen can hold the fort with J Mart and AJ Puck out? Great question because it is going to be tough, but I do believe the D-backs can do it. Obviously, your two biggest flamethrowers are currently out for the D-backs and J-Mart and Puck, which is very tough. Those two guys came into the season and we were raving about them. J-Mart is the closer. Puck is the eighth inning guy. We thought was the best 8-9 combination the D-backs have had maybe ever. When you look at their arsenal, their repertoire, their skill set, guys that could average 99 to like 102 on their fastballs, like insanely talented pitchers. And they're both now out for the D-backs. But I do think in this series finale against the Mets, we saw the formula that the D-backs should use going forward. The only difference is maybe in the seventh inning, maybe switch out like Ryan Thompson for Dbacks at times. But I do think the combination is going to be Thompson, Dbacks, Thompson / Dbacks, I should say, in the seventh inning, Ginkel in the eighth inning, Shelby Miller in the ninth inning. Like that is your 7, 8, 9 combination with J Mart and AJ Puck out. And again, with those two guys out, what Torey Lovullo really needs to do is define roles for the pen. I think that's the easiest way to hold the fort down if you're this D-backs bullpen, is to define roles so these guys know what they have to do every single day. And I think the injuries that we see to Puck and J Mart are helping define roles for the rest of the guys, because now we know what they have to do with those two guys out. I still think this bullpen, even without AJ Puck and J Mart out, I still think it's talented. Like, I do like the depth of this D-backs bullpen more than ever. Definitely more than I've ever, more than any other point I've taken over, the Locked on D-backs podcast. This is definitely the deepest the D-backs bullpen has been. Like, I still like Juan Murillo. I still like Ryan Nelson. Murillo, I still think has major potential as a back-end, high-leverage reliever, averages 99 on his fastball and sinker. Like, what I've seen from him so far in 2025, like, that guy does have a future as a potential back-end reliever for the D-backs or somebody else. I want to keep him around. Ryan Nelson, I still like. Multi-inning guy. He crushes, potential starter. I just don't like it when we try to overextend him and try to make him close out games and get the save. That is not when I'm a fan of Ryan Nelson. So outside of the biggest health concerns for me when it comes to this D-backs bullpen, I still like who we have. I still think the depth is pretty good. The biggest issue for me outside of the health, there's two things that, well, the health is the biggest concern for me, but the other thing that concerns me when it comes to this D-backs bullpen is this scenario. You're in a close game. It's like the 6th or 7th inning, and 3 of your top 4 guys are spent. They've been used the last couple days. They're not going today. You need to keep the game close, and you're looking at your pen, and it's either Scott McGough or Jose Castillo. They need to come in and keep the game close. That is what makes me worried, because both of those guys are in the D-backs bullpen right now. We know what Scott McGough is. I don't think it makes any sense for him to be on this D-backs roster. He's been terrible for Arizona. I'm not excited. I do not want to see him at all. We still got Dre Jameson, Yolbert Diaz, Bryce Jarvis, JP Firesign. Like, I know all of them have had their lows this season, but their lows are still Scott McGough's best. And so I just don't understand why they're not on this roster, why it's Scott McGough on this roster. Jose Castillo, I will give a little bit more grace. We haven't seen him pitch for the D-backs. He can throw in the mid-90s, and he is someone that is intriguing because he only has 2 innings pitched on the big league level since 2018 due to injuries and other factors, but he did look good his first season with the Padres in 2018. So if we could get that guy back, he could be something potentially, but I just don't know. I think this bullpen still has a lot of talent and enough pieces to hold down the fort. Still have reinforcements coming back like Kendall Graveman, which should help out until we get J Mart and Puck back. But I think the biggest thing that the D-backs need to do is just define roles for everyone. Keep Scott McGough far away from close games, and don't be afraid to pull the trigger on a reliever deal if it does break the bank. So that is what the D-backs should do with J Mart and AJ Puck out, because I do believe this bullpen is talented enough currently to hold down the fort with your two flamethrowers currently on the IL. Then the final question we'll answer before we wrap up today's podcast: are the D-backs cursed when it comes to signing starters? Certainly seems like it. The first year of Zach Greinke didn't go well. Mad Bum was a bust. Monty was a bust. Erod's been a bust. Corbin Burns, I mean, the numbers will tell you he hasn't been a bust. I mean, a 3.5 ERA. He's got like 3 or 4 quality starts, but I haven't felt good with Corbin Burns. I don't know what it is, whether it's the D-backs scouting, whether it's the D-backs development, because I feel like it has to do with Arizona, why these guys are coming in and not performing to the level that they should. When multiple guys come in, they don't look right, and then also some of them go someplace else and immediately look good again. I think that's when you have to look internally, because I don't even think it's just the guys we sign, like I talked about in yesterday's podcast. It's also the guys like Robbie Ray who come in, start off hot, have a great couple seasons, and then just unravel the longer they stay in Arizona. Greinke was actually very good for the D-backs after his first season in Arizona, but he definitely got better after he left Arizona and went to teams like the Houston Astros or whatever. Mad Bum, he was clearly in the decline when he got to AZ, but not to the level that he was at once he got here. Like, he was still a solid mid-rotation guy and then fell apart once he got here. Jordan Montgomery was literally winning the World Series and then looking like the worst starter in baseball. Erod was coming off like an all-star level season, and then he hasn't looked that good either. Like, Corbin Burns finished like top 3 in Cy Young voting last year. Now he looks like a pretty shaky starter. Like, I do think that's on Arizona, their coaching, their development. Like, if it's multiple guys every other year that you're signing and it's just like, why is it another starter that's a bust for the D-backs? I think at some point you have to stop blaming the players and start looking internally. So are the D-backs cursed? No, they're just not good at making sure these starters are up to the level that they need to be when it comes to the expectation that we have for them, when it comes to their own skill level. Like, the D-backs are just not extracting the most juice out of their players at times. And it seems like when it comes to their pitchers, mostly the D-backs don't extract the most juice. So they need to get better in that area, because I'm tired of paying so much money for these pitchers on the open market, and then they come to Arizona and are immediately bust. So let's pray that the D-backs and guys like Corbin Burns can turn it around, because 35 a year for Burns for the next few years, he's not going anywhere. So let's make sure it gets better than this in year 2 and going forward. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Come back next week for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Douse it.